Snivy is no longer able to continue.
Snivy, you were just great. Now why don't you take a good long rest? You want to stay and watch Tepig and me battle?
Turtle play becomes more intense. This also occurs when it gets angry.
Hey, it's time to show them your new move. Fire Fledge, go!
M4 and T4 unable to battle, so the victory goes to the trainer Ash.
Pokemon. Ignite moves faster when it's in.
Let's see.
Yes?
Is capitalized, Trumpian fashion. Do not answer any questions or get into any discussions with callers as they try to navigate to someone internally. Most certainly don't talk to the press about the issue. Direct them to the website and press inquiries to me. Now, look, part of that is understandable. You don't want every person at the station going and speaking for the station because they might not know all the facts, and you got to let PR do their job and the general manager do his job. So I'm actually being more understanding than almost anyone else out there on this issue. On the other hand, when you do a hard ban on speaking to the press when you are part of the press, let's note a little bit of irony there, and I've been on all sides of this, and I remember down in Florida when I worked in local news, I had a general manager tell me that I had a hard ban and I was not allowed to talk to the press. So in some instances it makes sense. In some instances like this, there's an obvious reason why they're doing it. And because there's a lot of people leaking right now going, we hate this. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But he wanted to be extra clear, so Truman wrote, I will also remind you that giving statements to the media or sharing negative information about the company can have huge implications. Gee, I wonder what he's referring to. I can't quite tell. That's an obvious threat to fire, folks. Now, there is one brave station, and it is, funny enough, a Fox station. It's a local Fox, not Fox News. It's in Madison, Wisconsin, and they put out this tweet saying that they are not going to participate. In response to the Sinclair message aired, MSN Fox 47, Madison did not air the Sinclair promotional announcement during our 9 p.m. news this weekend. Rather, we stayed true to our commitment to provide our Madison area viewers local news, weather, and sports of interest to them. And they clarified later that they not only did not run it at that time, but they never ran it. So we will track that station to see if there are, quote, huge implications for them. I fear that there eventually will be, likely when the press attention dies down a little bit, but Sinclair management is going to want to send a message to not cross them. And when they say something is must run, they probably mean it, given they've been doing this for decades. They're the guys who aired the Swift Boat veteran attack ads against John Kerry. The preposterous ads questioning John Kerry's valor when he had several medals from Vietnam. And George Bush, of course, famously ran from Vietnam. So did Donald Trump. So did Dick Cheney. So did Tom DeLay. So did Newt Gingrich. So did all those chicken hawks in the Republican Party. But in an effort to bring you the truth, Sinclair viciously attacked John Kerry, the actual Vietnam War hero. So they've been doing this for a long time, and they've been firing people for a long time if they don't go along. In fact, I'll get to that at the end. That is very interesting. First, I'm going to go to Fletcher Fisher. He's actually not representing people that are on air, but other people that work at Sinclair. They also had to sign these onerous contracts, and they also are forced not to talk about this issue, whether they're doing lighting, camera work, engineering, etc. And Fletcher says they're in the same boat that every anchor is with Sinclair. If they complain about something, they are gone. So that's a business manager of their local union explaining that and his interactions with them. Here's an anonymous Sinclair employee saying they're certainly not happy about it, about the situation. The anchors aren't. It's certainly a forced thing. So no question that it is being forced upon them. Now, Bloomberg has got their hands on a copy of a contract that a lot of these workers have to sign, including the non-air people. So if they're not on air, I don't know why in the world they'd have to sign this. Even for the on-air people, it is preposterous. But this is the threat that they hold over their head to make sure that they are not allowed to speak. So, according to copies of 2 employment contracts reviewed by Bloomberg, some Sinclair employees were subject to a liquidated damages clause for leaving before the term of their agreement was up, one that requires they pay as much as 40% of their annual compensation to the company. Now, that is whether they choose to leave or they're fired. So if they don't read the script exactly as is ordered by management in a pro-Trump and pro-Republican way, they will be fired. If they do read it, they've completely violated any kind of journalistic ethics they had. But if they're fired, they have to pay up to as much as 40% of their salary back to their employer. Well, who's got that kind of money lying around? Certainly not a lot of the news anchors. I don't know anybody who does, let alone the people that are not on air. I mean, because part of the BS excuse here is, well, you want a non-compete and so you don't want people running to your competitor that's across the street and going on air with them, and they take your best anchors after you invest in them. I understand that concept. But to say that you then owe だろうか。続く。
よし、これで投げて解放だ。キャーこれだよ、これがジャブの解放さ。それな、つけて、ピザ丼。よかった。よかったぜ。
伝説のポケモン、デシャモをめぐり、いよいよ最後の戦いが始まろうとしている。サトシたちの行く手には、どんな運命が待ち構えているのだろうか。続く。 including paying back some bonuses. And then there's more. They're also subject to a... Well, I'm not biased in this case. I want to push for video, etc. But let me tell you something. Local news, unfortunately, and this is not just about Sinclair, and I know that a lot of people are going to be angry at me because they work in the news industry, but it's generally garbage. Earlier today, there was a fire here. Well, there's no fire there today. I don't know why, or right now, I don't know why you're there. No, we have to go out there, pretend something's urgent. Oh, look, a car chase. Oh, my God, it's amazing. People have been murdered. Get scared. That's not real news. Whereas in print, they do amazing investigative journalism all the time. Who's breaking stories? When's the last time that anybody on cable news broke a story? Whereas in print, they break story after story after story. Again, I'm not saying they don't have bias. I talk about their bias all the time. And we have to keep each other honest. And we have to know what makes sense and what doesn't, and how to analyze the news. I look, the Washington Post had a story, not to pick on them, a lot of the print journalists have similar issues, that I thought covered the situation in the Gaza Strip and the protests there really, really well. Later in the day, they completely re-edited it, and then it started with the Israeli government says this, and the Israeli Defense Forces say that, and it had been changed completely to, it's the same facts, but a completely different spin. And it was amazing to see them side by side. And it was obvious that someone got a stern talking to, and the story was changed. So I'm now emphasizing for the 18th time, some criticism of print media is of course understandable, but to say that they have no value and that they don't do journalism but local news does, no one outside of a local news station owner could possibly make that claim. But it gets worse. He says that, I must tell that in all 45 plus years I have been in the media business, I have never seen a single article about us that is reflective of reality, especially in today's world with a shameful political environment and generally complete lack of integrity. Facts and truth have been lost for a long time and likely to never return. This is the guy that made his local anchors run swift boat attack ads against John Kerry that later were shown to be preposterous. What? He was in favor of George W. Bush. So you run those negative basically ads, but call it news. Today he has former Trump advisor Sebastian Gorka talking about insane conspiracy theories about the deep state on his air, pretending to be news. He has Boris Epstein, another former Trump advisor, doing story after story and attacking DACA and all these different things, pretending to be news. And then this guy has the temerity to say print journalists bring no value and completely lack integrity. Preposterous. And finally, Smith also says, the print media is so left-wing as to be meaningless dribble, which accounts for why the industry is and will fade away, just no credibility. Again, I don't know if in that particular case he's lying on purpose or is completely ignorant, but the troubles that print has to do with the revenue side of print, which was tied to classified section and advertising that is going away because of digital. It's a complicated issue, and not because they're not doing good journalism. To say that is purposely misleading, to say the least, but he owns Sinclair. Are we surprised that he's purposely misleading? But one more thing. Did you notice what he said there? Meaningless dribble. Sometimes when Steph Curry dribbles too much, it might be meaningless dribble, but maybe I've picked a poor example because a lot of his dribbling is great. I think you meant dribble. Perhaps if you've never read anything, then that might explain why you don't know the difference between dribble and dribble. You might want to pick up a paper and read something. You might learn. And among the things that you might learn are facts, which apparently are absent at Sinclair. Okay, so one more media story for you guys. I can't do all this right-wing propaganda without doing Fox News, right? So the other day, Jim Acosta shouted a question at Donald Trump during the Easter egg roll event that he was doing with the kids. Now, Trump made that event deeply political, so Acosta was within his rights to ask him what I think is a perfectly normal question that was in the news that day. Let's watch. Democrats have really let them down. They've really let them down. They had this great opportunity. The Democrats have really let them down. It's a shame. And now people are taking advantage of DACA, and that's a shame. Now, look, it's hard to hear him. The president has a mic. In that case, Acosta does not have a mic that you can hear. And he did shout it from behind, and the president was able to hear it. So I'm giving you all of the context here. But did it seem like he was screaming or doing anything outrageous? No, it certainly didn't seem that way. It seemed like he was asking the president a question, which is what is the job of a reporter. But Howard Kurtz, who is a so-called media analyst at Fox News, after being fired by CNN, who is the current employer of Jim Acosta, has decided that he's going to take on CNN and Acosta and say that this was terribly rude. Before we go to Kurtz, though, understand where he gets his marching orders. Media reports Trump's campaign manager, Brad Parscale, called for Acosta to have his press credentials revoked. How dare you ask the president a perfectly normal question about DACA, which he, by the way, answered. We should get rid of your press credentials. So, if the president's team is saying that, well, here comes Fox News and Howard Kurtz.
Yeah, I'm all for shouted questions, but Jim Acosta clearly crossed the line by doing it in this setting with a bunch of children surrounding the president. He did get an answer, which is why reporters do it.
You're not for shouted questions. You said over and over again, and to be fair to Howard Kurtz, and he said it later in that segment, he said he was against shouted questions for Obama, too. No, you're for compliance, Howard. You complied with whoever was in charge of CNN at the time, and you generally supported the establishment media. Then conveniently, when you go over to Fox News, all of a sudden, all the conservatives are right, and the conservative media is right. You can never criticize, of course, Fox News itself, and all of a sudden you're attacking CNN and other places. And just be honest about it. To say that you're all for shouted questions, but it wasn't the right context. Wait a minute. You're talking about context? So let me show you what Donald Trump said earlier to the kids who would come for the Easter egg roll. Out of nowhere, he started giving this political speech.
This is a special year. Our country is doing great. You look at the economy, you look at what's happening. Nothing's ever easy, but we have never had an economy like we have right now. And we're going to make it bigger and better and stronger. Our military is now at a level, will soon be at a level that it's never been before. It's, you see what's happening, and you see what's happening with funding. The funding of our military was so important. And so many military people are with us today. So just think of $700 million, because that's all going into our military this year.
Okay, I have to confess, we added the zoom into the Easter Bunny. So, the kids are trying to find the Easter eggs, and he's like, the economy's booming, the economy's fantastic, and the military's great. Why are you talking about the military to the kids? In that context, is it okay for Acosta to ask a political question? Of course! First of all, it's, I think, okay in almost any context to ask the president a question if you're a real reporter, let alone in the context where he made it deeply political. Also, I'd like to note for the record, free Melania. Now, we go on to more of Howard Kurtz's so-called media analysis.
But it's no accident that Acosta did this on DACA, an issue in which he is clearly an advocate. Quick example, last year, White House briefing with Stephen Miller, Acosta. What the president's proposing does not sound like it's in keeping with American tradition when it comes to immigration. The Statue of Liberty says, give me your tired, you're poor. You're bringing a press one for English philosophy to immigration. That's never been what the U.S. has been about. Now, does that sound like a journalist questions or an activist engaging in debate?
No, it sounds like a question. Most people are familiar with what's on the Statue of Liberty. I'm not sure that Donald Trump is. So explaining to him what's on the Statue of Liberty and saying, are you in favor of it or against it? I mean, that should be a super easy question. In the case of Donald Trump, not so easy because he's not in favor of what's on the Statue of Liberty. But, man, the conservatives love to cry about really simple questions. Remember when Sarah Palin said that when Katie Couric asked her, what papers do you read? She thought that was a gotcha question. So here's Howard Kurtz again. How dare you ask a question? If you ask a question that Kurtz interprets as being opposing Donald Trump. By the way, what are you supposed to do? Ask the president questions where you agree with him, and only questions where you agree with him? What kind of sense does that make? And look, we've been enormously consistent about this. We held Obama accountable over and over, and we thought that he should have been asked a lot more questions about the lack of wage growth in the country. We had great unemployment numbers, but we did not have very good wage growth. The drone strikes, on and on and on. But if I had Obama in a room, I'm not going to just ask him questions about what I agree with him on. I'm going to ask him about what I disagree with him on. That's what a reporter's supposed to do, but not in Howard Kurtz's view. And Howard Kurtz's view is you appease power. And so now Donald Trump's in power, and Fox News is paying Howard Kurtz. So, oh my God, asking questions where it seems like you're challenging the president. What are you supposed to do? Not challenge him? That's not journalism. But Kurtz has never known that, and it's hilarious that he's the guy who's supposed to be holding journalists accountable. All right, and finally, a veiled threat to CNN.
CNN, I have to assume, must be happy with the job that Acosta is doing, because this sort of thing has come up again and again, and it doesn't seem to be reined in by the network at all.
Yeah.
In other words, why aren't you firing him? The conservatives are very mad. The Trump administration is mad. Now, CNN, you must be aware that you have a reporter actually doing his job. Why is he still on the air? Howard Kurtz is just here to ask questions. This is the guy holding the media accountable. Hilarious. We'll be right back.
Can we eat in here? Once again, it's me, here at the Streamies. You people have thought that I was here to interview people. Instead, I was here to take it over for myself, my own agenda.
Congratulations on your award. Quick question, who's keeping it?
Well, we have a collective safe deposit box in Peoria, Illinois, that we will be putting it in.
You have to plan ahead.
She's gonna lay like this. You can hang your tank tops on, and then I can put my coat on. I'll grab a towel.
I can hold your award. I'd be happy to do it. Okay, good. I'll just hold this real quick. Can you just get this for my mom? Just so she has no idea the difference. I love how the different shots that you use, and I love how we really get a glimpse of sort of your day-to-day life, but you show it in a really unique way. Was that intentional to sort of set yourself apart using editing, using camera work?
No, I just think that like watching somebody's daily life is really fucking boring. And the
Yes.
thing that stands between boring and interesting is an edit.
This year also has been a pretty big year for you politically. You have sat down with, I mean, do you want to just name, Hillary Clinton?
Yes, our next president, hashtag I'm with her. Oh, I'm just going to put that out there.
I already knew that, but I feel like it's powerful now. You just said it.
I mean, come on. I'm actually going to Florida next week and knocking on doors and trying to get all my fans, make sure the millennials, you go out and you vote. It's very important.
What's next? Just, world domination. Yes. And some more matching tattoos and rings. Exactly. But honestly, what's next is whatever I can do to be a positive light in this world is what I'm going to do. Do you ever think when you start making YouTube videos that you'd be holding an award?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. An Oscar.
You're the first. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. You're the first person that other people are like.
People always ask me that. Did you think you were gonna have 10 million subscribers? Did you think you were gonna be in a movie and all this stuff? And I say yes. You have to believe in yourself, ignorantly almost, or arrogantly almost, to the point where you have to believe in yourself when no one else does. So obviously, I believed in myself.
Once again, I am here, backstage. Thus far, no one has suspected that it's not really Grace, it's an imposter. Good.
So congratulations on winning Show of the Year. Did you expect this?
I was hoping. I was thinking they were going to be top 3. I thought Good Mythical Morning might take it because they're a great show. They have a great audience. But I'm glad they didn't. Is that okay thing to say?
I'm glad they lost.
I'm glad they lost. I mean, I'm glad I won, but also that they lost because that's the only way that I would have won.
Yeah, again, I've watched your videos since I was like a kid. Like I don't know if I was a kid, but for a while. No, I didn't. I wasn't gonna say that. I mean, you're not. Okay, but hey, you've been doing good content for that long. That's awesome.
And also, if I'm a dinosaur, what's Jake? Lots of stories, lots of rage, lots of Young Turks. Let's do it. Living legend Anna Kasparian. God, I love this show. I love this job.
I love this tweet from the other Russert.
Had a rough last few days of missed TYT yesterday. The theme started playing and my week instantly got better. I shouldn't read this tweet. Should I read it? I'll read it.
Jack, we're in the middle of the show, for crying out loud.
Oh my God.
If there's a debate, there's an election night. Don't even think about going anywhere else. Because we are going to lose our minds here. All right, guys, we're back on the Young Turks. Lots of news to cover for you guys. I'll read tweets a little bit later in the program. By the way, if you go to shoptyt.com, not the best day for it, but there is Notorious RBG t-shirts. That's fine. No problem at all. That's about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the bullet control tees. Maybe it is the best day for it. Anyway, check that out. ShopTYT.com. All right, let's do the news. Let's go over here. All right, fantastic news for you guys about progressive candidates kicking ass throughout the country. Beto O'Rourke is running against Ted Cruz. Everybody thought, it's a long shot. That's Texas. Ted Cruz came in basically second in 2016 to Donald Trump in the Republican primaries. He's going to be set, and he's really well known, and he's got tremendous name recognition. This Beto O'Rourke is really progressive. How could he possibly win in Texas? Well, here comes Beto. Last quarter, O'Rourke raised $2.4 million from 55,000 individual contributors. That's a stunning number. First of all, it's really important for you to know he doesn't take corporate PAC money. So that's all real people giving him money. And 55,000 is a gigantic number, but that was last quarter. Let's find out how he did this quarter that just ended. Representative Beto O'Rourke, who's challenging Ted Cruz for his Texas Senate seat, raised a staggering $6.7 million in the first quarter of 2017, his campaign announced. Wow! That's a giant amount! Because people can't wait to beat Ted Cruz, including me. We're going to run that picture of sad Ted Cruz phone banking for Donald Trump. It's going to be one of the greatest days if Beto takes him down. By the way, we'll have the link to donate to Beto O'Rourke in the description box below, as well as all the candidates. But wait, we're not done with Beto yet. Furthermore, the $6.7 million, as the Texas Tribune explains, came from 141,000 contributions, another record-busting number for O'Rourke. Wow! 141,000 different contributions. That's amazing, man. Watch out, Cruz. Here comes Beto. He has also outraised Cruz, according to Mediaite, in 3 of the last 4 quarters, and he's doing it with small money, no corporate PAC money. Now, he's not the only one doing a great job in raising money against well-known incumbents. Wisconsin Democrat Randy Bryce, otherwise known as Iron Stash, a long-shot challenger to Speaker Paul D. Ryan, according to Roll Call, raised $2.1 million in the most recent fundraising quarter his campaign announced Monday. In a congressional race, that is a gigantic amount. Randy Bryce also doesn't take corporate PAC money. How do I know? Because he's a Justice Democrat. So, with these guys raising this amount of money from small donors is unheard of. Bryce's bid for the 1st District has raised a total of $4.75 million. So far, the $2.1 million raised in the most recent quarter is nearly double the $1.2 million he raised the previous quarter. His campaign said. His campaign also reported having $2.3 million in cash on hand. Look, let me tell you why that's so important. And now, having talked to a lot of the Justice Democrats, seen their campaigns,
money matters a tremendous amount, not just for running inefficient, expensive TV ads, but also because you need staffers who are going to organize your volunteers. You need campaign offices in different parts of the state. In a giant state like Texas, if you're O'Rourke, or if you're Allison Hartson in California, you need money to buy the voter rolls that every candidate. I mean, it goes on and on. And even if you want to do digital ads, that takes a lot of money. So keep it going, guys. Both of the candidates and the people giving them small dollar donations. If we knocked out Ted Cruz and Paul Ryan, that would be unreal. And I believe that it is eminently doable. And so, by the way, we also have Randy Price's link down below in the description box on YouTube, comment section on Facebook. That's where we always have the link. Super easy to click. Go and participate. Now let me turn to Allison Hartson running against Dianne Feinstein in California. Hartson, who's this is the Mercury News explains in California, who's never run for office before and who's received almost no mainstream media coverage of her campaign, received more money in small dollar donations than Feinstein and De Leon combined. That's another person in the race. She took in $158,707 in unitemized contributions, less than $200 over the last 3 months of 2017. That's the last quarter, compared to the $111,524 for Feinstein and just $31,427 for De Leon. She beat them both combined. That's the legendary Feinstein. You know what Feinstein had to do? She had to lend her own campaign $5 million. Now, she can do that because she's enormously wealthy. She has about $80 million, according to the best estimates. Her husband's a billionaire, so $5 million is no big deal for them. They don't even bother taking volunteers on Feinstein's website. Allison Hartson is, of course, powered by volunteers. She's got now over 1,400 volunteers in the state of California, and that's why she's doing a great job. We've got her link down below as well, and it's really easy to remember. It's justicedemocrats.com/Allison. So make sure you go contribute. As you can tell with the numbers there, she's doing great compared to her opponents, but she needs a lot more money to run in a gigantic state like California. She needs to hire a lot more volunteer coordinators, field coordinators, and then, of course, be able to run the tough hitting ads that she's been doing lately. And again, one more thing overall here. We've got momentum, and it's not just for Democrats. It's for real progressives and uncorrupted progressives. And I want to give Beto O'Rourke a lot of credit here. Look, we don't often get credit, and when I say we in this context, I do mean the Justice Democrats. I am proud that I helped form that group, and that group said that they will not endorse anyone, they will not back any candidate if they take corporate PAC money. And now, as you've seen, a lot of people, including some fairly well-established Democrats in the Senate, if I could put it that way, are also declaring that they're not taking corporate PAC money. I don't know that the Just Democrats were the sole reason. Of course not, right? But were they part of the reason, an important part of the reason, as you have 52 candidates in the Just Democrats that said they will not take corporate PAC money, and now a lot of them are doing well. 5 out of 7 won in the Texas primaries. In fact, one of the ones that beat a Just Democrat has just become a Justice Democrat, Mary Wilson in Texas, so 6 out of 7 in a sense. And they're uncorrupted, and they're wonderful, and they have all this momentum. And I'm kind of proud that we helped to start the no corporate PAC money trend, right? But there are some people who've been on that before us, and one of them is Beto O'Rourke. So that's why I wanted to point that out and give him all the credit in the world. He decided not to take any corporate PAC money even before the Just Democrats were around, even before it became fashionable in the Senate and other places. So no wonder he's gotten the credibility that he has with all those donors and the small dollars that are coming in, and I'm sure the volunteers coming in. Please, we'll have all the links down below. Go to their websites, donate if you can, volunteer if you can. AllisonHartson.com/now to volunteer for Allison in California. Or, by the way, you can help these guys by making calls no matter where you are. You don't have to be in Wisconsin to defeat Paul Ryan. You don't have to be in Texas to defeat Ted Cruz. You don't have to be in California to have a real progressive represent the really blue state of California like Allison Hartson. So, wonderful news, but it's on you guys to finish this. If we get all this way and then we don't win these elections, well, of course, then we didn't accomplish our goal. We've got to finish them. Let's go do that together. Okay. Now that's good news. Now let me give you back to the madness. Now the news of the day. Okay. So Donald Trump often copies Fox News. We know this. He watches them and then parrots what they say. In fact, it just happened a day ago. He put out this tweet: Honduras, Mexico, and many other countries of the U.S. is very generous to sends many of their people to our country through our weak immigration policies. Caravans are heading here. Must pass tough laws and build a wall. Democrats allow open borders, drugs, and crime. Now, when I saw that tweet, I was like, what in the world is he talking about? What caravan is heading over from Honduras to Mexico to here? Why would people sneaking in do a caravan? That makes no sense. And I've never seen that reported anywhere. It turns out it was reported one place. You guys want to see where? Let's put this up. Unsurprisingly, yes, there it is on Fox News. Caravan of illegal immigrants headed to the U.S. Totally made up. And Donald Trump, of course, sees it on Fox and Friends and runs with it. Well, today, another example. So, before I get to Trump, let me show you what Tucker Carlson said last night on Fox News. Now, listen carefully.
Right, so 60,000 Americans died last year from drug abuse, and most of those drugs came from Mexico. So they're a hostile country. They're abetting the movement of these people here. Would it be possible to send the military to our border? I mean, why is this not, honestly, why is this not a hostile act against our country?
All right, two things there. First of all, 60,000 people died from opioid abuse. And he says, oh, it all came from Mexico, or the majority came from Mexico. No, it didn't. Those opioids are mostly legal in America. Yes, there's heroin as well, but actually more people die from legal opioids like OxyContin than they do from the illegal ones. I'm pretty sure Purdue Pharma and all the other giant pharmaceutical companies are not based in Mexico. They're based right here in America. But he'd like to deceive you and get you to hate immigrants that are coming into the country when they're not really the cause of the problem. But the interesting part there was, he said we should deploy the military to the border. Now, when I saw that online yesterday, I thought, I haven't seen that one before. TikTok, let's see how long it takes for Trump to say it. And he does not disappoint. Listen to Trump today.
So I told Mexico, and I respect what they did. I said, look, your laws are very powerful. Your laws are very strong. We have very bad laws for our border. And we are going to be doing some things. I've been speaking with General Mattis. We're going to be doing things militarily. Until we can have a wall and proper security, we're going to be guarding our border with the military.
He watches it on Fox, and then he repeats it. He doesn't bother asking anyone, hey, is this a good policy idea? What would be the implications? Is it really a smart idea to host military in their actual military role within the United States on the border? Have we done that before? What were the consequences? Oh, we've never done that before. Why haven't we done that before? Any of these type of conversations, how much would it cost? And on and on and on. Nope. Oh, I saw that Tucker Carlson. Must be a good idea. I told my defense secretary, let's get the military on the border. Now everybody's freaking out. The military is going to go to the border. What are they going to do? Shoot the undocumented immigrants coming across? Shoot random Mexicans? What the hell are they going to do down there? It doesn't matter. You hear it on Fox. Our president is a moron. He watches television and then goes, let's do that. Whatever Tucker Carlson said. Okay. Speaking of which, one more statement about the caravans again from today. Watch.
But I told Mexico very strongly, you're going to have to do something about these caravans that are coming up. And I just noticed that the caravan now, which is toward the middle of Mexico, coming up from Honduras, is breaking up very rapidly. That's because Mexico has very strong immigration laws, as we should have. We should have those laws. We don't have. We have immigration laws that are laughed at by everybody.
Break down the stupid on that one. So there's this mythical caravan that came from Honduras into Mexico. He said in that comment, you could rewind and watch, that was in the middle of Mexico but is now breaking apart. But that's because Mexico has really tough immigration laws. Then why are they in the middle of Mexico? Wouldn't Mexico have stopped them before they entered, even especially if they were a giant caravan? They're like, hello everybody, we're undocumented immigrants, we formed a caravan. Why would Mexico, who you just claimed has very tough laws, allow them into the country? He claims that they're breaking up in the middle of Mexico because there's no caravan. It was made up by Fox News. So nobody can see it on a satellite. Nobody can report on it because it doesn't exist. So he has to say, Mexico's very tough with them. In the middle of the country, they decided they weren't going to let them in, and they're breaking them apart now. That's what we should learn from. Fox News is running the country. That's the insanity we live in today. What is the next Fox News anchor going to say? And what worldwide implications is it going to have? Brace for impact. Okay, I got to take a break here. When we come back, speaking of Fox News, oh my God. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. Look, the right wing complains about the word racism. I'm going to prove it to you guys when we come back.
Take care of yourselves. Archie, you're the oldest. You're my only hope, buddy. All right. Hey, I'm back.
Welcome back, and thanks for watching. Special thanks to our guest, Hillary Clinton. Hey, Hillary, thanks for being our guest, and really, thanks for allowing me to be within 4 feet of you without charging me $3,000. But I want to give you a proper thank you, Hillary, and so can we get some thank you note writing music, please? Thank you, Hillary Clinton, for always sticking to the issues, even when people criticize you for superficial things, like your hair and your appearance, and the Iraq War, and that thing about super predators, and privatizing prisons, and gutting welfare, and the Defense of Marriage Act, and for that Syria no-fly zone thing, opposing free college, opposing single payer, opposing raising the minimum wage to $15, being a proud Goldwater girl, Wall Street deregulation, repealing that New Deal, media consolidation. Thank you, Hillary Clinton, for normalizing the Bush family, for sparing Bernie Sanders, blaming Russia, blaming women, blaming sexism, blaming the media, blaming Bernie Sanders, blaming Obama, blaming James Comey, the DNC, Facebook, blaming a third-party candidate, blaming Sanders for not being a third-party candidate, blaming the difference between cats and dogs, blaming people for not blaming all the people you're blaming. Blaming blame. You show girls everywhere that politics isn't a popularity contest, mainly by being really, really unpopular. I mean, if politics were a popularity contest, we would have nominated someone who consistently pulled ahead of Donald Trump, like Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Hillary Clinton, for being the most experienced candidate ever and not standing up for anything. And thank you, Hillary Clinton, for standing up to the critics who said a woman couldn't run for president as a Democrat when she was really a Republican. Thank you, Hillary Clinton.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich. Breaking news. Brett Ehrlich. Before we do breaking news with Brett Ehrlich, I'd like to do some local warm-ups. Ribbit! Book the sandwich. I booked the sandwich. I'm ready. Young Turks. A couple of quick messages for you guys. For a more perfect America writes in on Twitter using hashtag TYT Live. Donald Trump really needs to stop letting Fox News president. Gonzo Tokyo writes in, wait, you mean in this day and age, if you actually represent the people and not corporations, the people will actually support you? No way. Yes, that's sarcasm. And then Saint writes in on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you, Saint, because that helps the show. 45% of immigrants come by plane. Is that a plane caravan, though? Saint, hang in there, because we got a story about Camp of the Saints, which is fascinating in a minute. But first, let's do this story. Okay. So, when we had the shooting in Parkland, and all those high school kids got shot, a lot of the right wing made the preposterous argument that, oh my God, the law enforcement didn't do their job, because they now love to attack law enforcement. They attacked the FBI. They said, oh, they got warnings about the shooter. He had said things online, and they didn't follow up properly. And then when the local sheriffs down there disputed the NRA on gun control, then they went after them, and they said, oh, they were terrible, they didn't do their job. All these warnings, the guy wrote bad things on the internet, why didn't they go grab his guns? Ridiculous. I told you at the time that the right wing would never allow it if it was ahead of time. If they would have been his biggest defenders, they would say under no circumstances he's got Second Amendment rights, etc. Well, now we don't have to wonder about that anymore, because we have nearly identical case, and it is clear what is going to happen. So, University of Central Florida police officer Jeffrey Panter said that he started investigating Christian Nicholas Velasquez after getting reports from the school community about a user on the online social media platform Reddit called The Real UCF Chris, who called Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz and Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock heroes. So here's a guy online, just like Cruz did earlier, bragging about how much he likes the mass shooters and saying all sorts of other outrageous things about shootings. Okay, so they went and talked to him. And so this police officer, Jeffrey Panter, interviewed Velasquez, as Orlando Sentinel explains, who answered a series of hypothetical questions about committing a mass shooting. Panter asked if his target would be UCF. Velasquez answered he would probably do it at the middle or high school where he was bullied. Well, that seems abundantly clear, and that fits a pattern. Unfortunately, some of these shooters have been bullied in the past, or at least in their mind, they were the victims, and then they go and strike out and kill all sorts of people, and he fits right into that pattern. He also said it would take a tragic life event, such as a breakup or firing from a good job, to provoke him. Wow. So, of course, his dad and his lawyer are defending him to the hilt, and I understand that. And they say, no, but he also said in parts of the interview they would take something extreme. First of all, it shouldn't take anything to do a mass shooting. I don't care what extreme event happened in your life. I don't care if you sprained your ankle or you broke your ankle. It doesn't allow you to do a mass shooting. Second of all, when given an opportunity, he told the cops it would take something as quote-unquote extreme as losing his job. That's not extreme. That happens to people all the time. So an argument could be made that he's a ticking time bomb. Well, he explained it by saying he wanted to look like a badass on Reddit. Okay? That's according to his lawyer. Okay. But that's exactly what the Parkland shooter would have said if cops had come up to him. And in fact, they had interviewed him, and he said, it was just me venting online. I was saying those things online, but I'm not really going to do it. But he did. So luckily in Florida, they just passed a law that says for these folks, you can actually do something about it for a couple of weeks. Wow. So they did, and by the way, law enforcement doing a good job here, following up, making sure nothing goes wrong. But then we go to Circuit Judge Bob LeBlanc, who's got a rule on this. And he says, I don't disagree with the issue of the initial temporary injunction. I think that's exactly what the statute provides for. So then they passed the statute, they got the injunction, great, it's working like we want. The problem is, it's enormously temporary. It lasts an incredibly short period of time. So now, when prosecutors asked to extend it for a year, the judge declined to extend the ban. So now, he's out there and he can do anything he likes. I hope that he was actually venting. I hope he doesn't do anything wrong. But I told you, they're not going to take away their guns, no matter what they say online, no matter how specific the threats are. They're not going to do it. So, not only that, on top of that, the family, according to the Sentinel, will pursue civil action against Orlando police. Harris, that's his lawyer, told Orlando Sentinel. So, just as I told you, when you've got a person that is very similar initially to Cruz, this guy didn't do any mass shootings, I want to be clear about that, but said that he idolizes these mass shooters and would like to do similar things, and told that to the cops, they said, there's nothing you can do! There's nothing you can do! Second Amendment! Second Amendment! Second Amendment, there's nothing you can do! I told you that they would say there's nothing you could do, and if he does do a shooting, they'll say, oh, it wasn't the guns, it wasn't the Second Amendment, it was law enforcement, gee, they should have done something. They did do something. But you handcuffed the cops in this case, and in the Parkland shooting case, even more so. By the way, read the Second Amendment. It says, a well-regulated militia being necessary. I know conservatives are not that bright, but do you know the English language? Which part of a well-regulated militia was the Parkland shooter, was the Vegas shooter, the Texas church shooter, this guy? They're not in a well-regulated militia. They don't have the unlimited gun rights that the right-wing fanatics think that they have. Read the Second Amendment. It says you need to be in a well-regulated militia, and none of them are. But the conservative justices go, oh, I claim to be in favor of strict construction. I'm just kidding. I can't read either. I'm just going to let everybody have weapons. And today, another shooting, this time at YouTube headquarters. I've been in that building many times. And soon, some of you have already said it. Some of you will soon be saying it. Oh, I was just there. And oh my God, all those people died. Or one day, one of your loved ones is going to be there. Or you're going to be there. Because the mass shootings are endless. And because of the insanity of the right wing in this country who can't read English, we are led to believe that they have unlimited rights to heavy weaponry. It's preposterous. It's not true. And here you have another example ahead of time where because of that interpretation, they say there's nothing we can do. If he does actually one day go and shoot up his middle school because he felt aggrieved and he felt that those other shooters were heroes, they'll say there's nothing we can do. Our government will not protect us. It's a run amok. Gun manufacturers run this country. It's sick. All right, one last story for you guys. I always say that. Of course, I mean in this segment. Unfortunately, Anna's going to come in and she's got a lot more details about that YouTube shooting. And that is a terrible story, but it's another day in America. Okay. So, Mark Stein is a right-winger. He goes on Fox News all the time. Likes to go on Tucker Carlson's program, which has become a hub, a base, a camp, if you will, or perhaps an Al-Qaeda of white supremacy. Now, I think the word white supremacy is a little overused. I've talked about that on the show before. In this case, it is not. It is literal. So, let me show you what Mark Stein said and then explain the context. Let's watch.
There was a French novel published 45 years ago by Jean Raspail, The Camp of the Saints. A lot of people on the left don't like it, but it actually predicted what's happening before our eyes.
So, he's saying that The Camp of the Saints is a good book that predicted what's happening, but the left doesn't like it, but it's real. All right, well, let's find out what The Camp of the Saints is. So, Southern Poverty Law Center has read it. They say, it is the favorite racist fantasy of the anti-immigrant movement in the U.S. Now, the job of the Southern Poverty Law Center is to track hate groups. They also explain that it is revered by American white supremacists. Now, okay, these guys have been doing it for a long time. They track these groups, but now the right wing, since they are white supremacists in a lot of ways, not all of them, obviously, but certainly Mark Stein is, and apparently Tucker Carlson is, and they talk about this all the time. Steve Bannon talks about Camp of the Saints nonstop. And so, since they are racist, they go, no, Southern Poverty Law Center tracking racists, it doesn't count. Well, okay, then let's go to Linda Chavez. Now, Linda Chavez worked for Ronald Reagan in his cabinet and George W. Bush in his cabinet. She's a revered, significant right-winger. She said that the book is really shockingly racist. Okay. Fine, you don't even want to trust any other Republicans or right-wingers. Let's go to the book itself. On the cover of the book, in the English translation, it explains that it is, quote, a chilling novel about the end of the white world. Now, that's on the cover of the book. They're bragging about it. Oh, the immigrants are going to end the white world. Oh, wait. I'm going to quote the book for you guys. I have a clear sense of what these guys are such big fans of. First, we go to an explanation by HuffPost. The plot of the Camp of the Saints follows a poor Indian demagogue named the Turd Eater. You didn't see that wrong. Because he literally eats crap. And the deformed, apparently psychic child who sits on his shoulders. Okay, so the leader of the immigrants eats crap and is called the Turd Eater. Okay, we're just warming up. Well, what happens with them? Together, they lead an armada of 800,000 impoverished Indians sailing to France. Dithering European politicians, bureaucrats, and religious leaders, including a liberal pope from Latin America, debate whether to let the ships land and accept the Indians, or to do the right thing in the book's vision by recognizing the threat the immigrants pose and killing them all. The book thinks the right thing is to kill 800,000 immigrants to protect the white world. And they brag about it on TV. I'm not done. They explain poor black and brown people literally overrun Western civilization in the book. Once the Indians land in France, then Chinese people pour into Russia. The Queen of England is forced to marry her son to a Pakistani woman. The mayor of New York must house an African-American family at Gracie Mansion. Now, this was written in the mid-1970s. Now, part of the reason that the right wing is freaking out is we do have a liberal pope from Latin America. The Prince Harry in England is marrying a biracial woman, and hence the Queen is forced to have at least someone of a different race in her house. And the mayor of New York does house an African-American family in Gracie Mansion, his own. So, they're like, aha, we knew it! What did you know, you racist? That black people could live in Gracie Mansion? That a black woman could be married to the mayor of New York? Well, earlier we had a black mayor anyway. I know you despise that idea, but this is all of their horrific nightmares come true. Oh my God, the Queen to be forced to have a Pakistani woman in her house! Chinese people in Russia! Oh, this is disgusting. We should have murdered them all. The hero of the book wanted to kill them all. He winds up killing a liberal. I'll get to that in a second. But here's a direct quote from the book about what was happening on the ship of immigrants. They say that they are sexual deviants. And the book writes, everywhere, rivers of sperm, streaming over bodies, oozing between breasts and buttocks, and thighs and lips and fingers. So it's sick in 1,000 different ways. And finally, the main character, right before he kills the liberal who's in favor of immigrants, the hero of the book, is a murderer who kills liberals who are in favor of immigrants. And they brag about it on Fox News. In his speech he gives to the liberal he's about to murder, he says, that scorn of a people for other races, the knowledge that one's own is best, the triumphant joy at feeling oneself to be part of humanity's finest, none of that had ever filled these youngsters' addled brains. Right there, literally saying, white supremacy is great. And it's so sad that these addled brains of the liberals don't understand how supreme their own race is and how they should be proud to be above the other races. Well, that is the definition of white supremacy. And in case it wasn't clear enough, here's Mark Stein on the same Tucker Carlson show back in January. Listen to what he says.
The white supremacists are American citizens. The illegal immigrants are people who shouldn't be here.
Let's also note for the record that Mark Stein is an immigrant from Canada. All right, well, it is absolutely clear. Tucker Carlson heard that comment in January. Very happy to have him back on the program, where he then lauds the Camp of the Saints, a deeply racist book, proud to be racist. Breitbart has written many articles praising Camp of the Saints. So all these right-wing guys, these alt-right, the Mark Steins, the Steve Bannons, the Tucker Carlsons, they are put away the dog whistle. They're now just flat out saying it. And you might not know Camp of the Saints. That's partly why I do this story for you guys, just to give you an understanding of what they're doing. But those guys in the right wing, they know it. So when Mark Stein says on Fox News, Camp of the Saints is coming true, a lot of the people in the alt-right go, yes, the immigrants are coming in. In fact, Trump just warned about a caravan of immigrants coming into the country, kind of like an armada of immigrants coming into France. And where did he get that from? He got it from Fox News. And the Mark Steins of the world and Tucker Carlsons of the world are telling their fellow white supremacists, it's time to act against those immigrants. And if the Camp of the Saints is their guidebook, whoa, watch out. They might be white supremacists, but they've got brown shirts. Young Turks.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this. It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United!
We are!
We are!
Too strong! There's thousands of volunteers, and you can be among them.
So it's Wolfpack. The mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com.
Patience. It's a virtue. They think you can put me in a box. But you can't stifle a revolution. Cenk Uygur, you started something, an idea. The truth and honesty matter above all else. And the people love you for it. And for a while, so did I. We could have stood united, a political force of reckoning upon our foes, the hypocrites, the phonies, the unjust. But you put me in this box.
Cenk. No.
You began without me. You began without me. God as my witness. I will be the one to finish it.
There on this frontier we call the internet, there's a lot of bad folks out to get you. For years, corporate media barons and right-wing rustlers tried to keep the status quo around these parts. But lucky for us, there's a man who's fighting back. They call him Cenk Uygur, a.k.a. Digital Outlaw, a.k.a. Death. He just rode into town, laying
beats his wife.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Brian Sontag writes in on YouTube Super Chat, Trump constantly reminds us he's a puppet, not a leader. And in this case, obviously, he's being led around by Fox News. Blur E Face writes in on Twitter, #TYT Live. Well, the FBI should have taken action when Donald Trump talked about shooting anyone in the middle of Fifth Avenue. That's actually a really, really good point. Under the right-wing logic, what? It's okay. Why don't the authorities do something about threats before the shooting actually happens? They should have done about Trump. Okay, and unfortunately, speaking of shootings, you have a story about that.
Yes. There was a shooting incident at the YouTube campus in San Bruno, California. This is the San Francisco area. And luckily, as far as we know so far, there have been no fatalities other than the individual who opened fire. Now, this case is a little different from the shooting cases that we usually cover on the show because the suspect is identified as a female, and it appears, it has not been 100% confirmed yet, but it appears that she has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, there have been some injuries. Some of those injuries have been serious, and here's what we know so far. San Francisco General Hospital, also known as the Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, is reporting that a 32-year-old woman is in serious condition, a 27-year-old woman is in fair condition, and unfortunately there is a 36-year-old man in critical condition. However, they are expecting these individuals to recover from their injuries. We don't know whether or not there are more injuries. There have been some reports that others have been rushed to the hospital, but again, that has not been confirmed. This shooting broke out around noon, late noon actually, this afternoon, and obviously more details are trickling in, and we will update you on the story as more information comes in. But we don't know what the motive is of this woman. We don't know much about her. ABC News 7, which is a local ABC affiliate in the San Francisco area, reported that the woman was identified as someone wearing a headscarf, but again, that is not information that is being widely reported. The only thing that we know for sure is that she was a woman.
Okay, and we've got video of the San Bruno police chief.
Yes, he is going to explain what the police experienced and what they saw as they reported to the scene. This is San Bruno Chief Ed Barberini. Take a look.
Upon arrival, officers encountered numerous employees fleeing from the building. It was very chaotic, as you can imagine. We did encounter one victim with an apparent gunshot wound towards the front of the business as we arrived. Several minutes later, while conducting a search of the premises, officers located a second individual with a gunshot wound that appears to may have been self-inflicted. We are still working on confirming that. Two additional victims were located several minutes later at an adjacent business.
Okay. So, I talk about on the show all the time that these shootings happen everywhere. They're going to happen everywhere, and you shouldn't be surprised. And nonetheless, most of the time when a shooting happens near wherever you are, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened here. Why wouldn't you believe it? There's a mass shooting on average about once a day in America. And so I've been in that building. I've been in that building many times. And they, some of the initial reports, again, in the first 24 hours here, a lot of the initial reports wind up being not exactly accurate. But some of the initial reports were that the shooting happened in the cafeteria area. I've had lunch there many times. So if it just happened that I was there that day, I could have been one of the victims. We had a shooting near my house, about a year ago or so, and people were worried that it was a mass shooting on a college campus, and on it goes. And so it'll be in your neck of the woods soon, if it isn't already. And so in this case, I know a lot of people in that building, and I was, of course, very, very worried about that. We reached out to them. Most of the folks we know are okay. But we don't do something about guns. They're just going to keep on shooting us.
I thought what was interesting was the line of questioning from the reporters. Now, I don't begrudge them for asking the questions that they're asking. Obviously, they want to get a handle on the story, figure out what's going on, see if there were potentially some flaws in security that could have allowed a shooter to enter YouTube. But what I know from personal experience is that YouTube security is rather strict. And so there were questions about whether or not YouTube utilizes metal detectors. I haven't experienced metal detectors there, but the reason why I bring this up is because we shouldn't have to live in a world, in a society, or go to a workplace where we have to go through metal detectors just to be able to do our job. So I thought that was a really interesting question that was asked during the press conference, and we'll see how the story develops moving forward. But YouTube they take pretty extreme security measures with the exception of metal detectors. So it's not like anyone could easily just walk in and do whatever they want to do.
But it could, again, we don't know. It could have been an employee. Oftentimes
Exactly.
It's an employee or a student that went to school, etc. But what are we going to do? We're all going to live in prisons, right? We're all going to be treated like prisoners. Everywhere is going to be like an airport. Whenever you go into a building, you're going to have to take off your shoes. You're going to have to go through metal detectors. You're going to have to do pat-downs. Or we can do something about guns. But no. The gun manufacturers own our government. They just own it. So even though 93% of Americans want federal background checks, nope, you're not allowed to have it. Because the gun manufacturers pay the NRA. The NRA is bought in our open auction system, in our private financing of elections. They bought all the politicians. So instead, we'll all be treated as prisoners. And by the way, will that work? No, it won't work. We'll all still get shot anyway. And so someone you know is likely to get shot soon.
We never have a discussion, and I'm talking about as a country, we never have a discussion about certain freedoms that we constantly sacrifice just to appease gun manufacturers. The students in Parkland now have to show up to school wearing transparent backpacks, clear backpacks. They're not allowed to have normal backpacks because that is the answer. And, I can't blame the school district for wanting to do that, because what else can they do? They're not the ones who write policy and pass legislation. Our lawmakers are supposed to do that. But, who knows? Maybe Gucci and Coach need to work on creating clear handbags for working professionals now.
Yeah, these are not the answers. We know what the answers are. Look, we have over 30,000 deaths every year from guns in America. You know how much Japan has? 13. So we're 3 times the size of Japan, multiplied by 3, 39 gun deaths. You know why? They have very strict gun control. Does gun control work? Yes, it definitely works. They had a mass shooting in Australia. They did strict gun control. You know what happened? There hasn't been a single mass shooting since, in decades in Australia. Here, we average 1 mass shooting every single day. The OK Corral was nothing compared to an average day in America today. Non-stop massacre after massacre after massacre. And we're talking about clear bags. We're talking about metal detectors and taking off our shoes. It's the guns. Stupid. Because you are stupid if you don't realize that the rest of the countries in the world that do gun control don't have anywhere near the number of gun deaths that we do. We have preposterous, record-breaking gun deaths. And we have no gun control. Almost none whatsoever. Gee, I can't tell what it is. No, let's have a BS debate about, the NRA says this. Facts say the other thing. Who cares about facts? Did facts bribe your local senator? No, they didn't, did they? So the NRA wins that. I can give you example after example. Over 20,000 suicides by gun in America. So forget homicides, forget the mass shootings, forget the accidents. Do you know that 90% of suicide attempts that are done without a gun fail? They live. And you know what? They don't try it again. In an overwhelming majority of the cases. 90% of the suicide attempts done with a gun succeed. They die right away because they put a bullet in their head. So that's why we have over 20,000 people that die every year because of successful suicide attempts because they have a gun. Then there's over 10,000 who die by a homicide by a gun. Then there's over 500 every year that die by accident over a gun, let alone the thousands who get shot by accident. Japan has 13 deaths. Why? Gun control. And it's not just Japan. Go to Britain. Go to Norway, Finland. Find any example you like. We've shown it to you in a million cases. But you don't want to listen because, hey, I got a hobby. And if the government comes for me, I'm going to hide in the woods and murder police. But Blue Lives Matter. I'm going to murder government officials with my gun. But and I hate the FBI because they're coming after Trump. But Blue Lives Matter. Okay. And by the way, in case you can't read, because apparently a lot of the right wing cannot read, let me read the Second Amendment to you. It says, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." It is a qualifier. A well-regulated militia being necessary. It doesn't just say you can have unlimited guns. Are you part of a well-regulated militia? One, you're not part of a militia. None of these people are. Okay. Number two, you're certainly not well-regulated. It says in the Second Amendment that it should be well-regulated. That phrase is literally in the amendment. I can't read. I don't care. I got a hobby. It's fantasy football. It doesn't kill anyone. Your hobby costs us over 30,000 lives every single year. And it isn't about your hobby. Most gun owners agree. Overwhelming majority of gun owners agree we should do federal background checks and reasonable gun control. But no, the gun manufacturers, they like to sell guns. One last thing. You know the saying that NRA came up with? Takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. You know what that means? Hey, I just sold 2 guns.
We got to take a break. Let's do that. And when we come back, an update on Scott Pruitt and how he could be the next to leave the White House or get fired. The theory that some progressives had about Trump getting elected being a good thing because he would destroy so badly that people would be ready to throw in support for a true progressive. But I'm worried that the opposite is happening, that Trump is so extreme and so disastrous that he has now desensitized us to politicians that we typically would not like and not support. Even on the right, like, oh, you just impeach Trump, then we can have Pence. It's changed our standards. It's lowered our standards for politicians.
So, Anna, that's a great point. Now, all of a sudden, Corker's the middle? Are you kidding me? And what do the Democrats do? They just accept it. They're thrilled because they're like, well, that's the number one trick they have, which is, well, you can't vote for the other guy. You know, we have a better deal. Better than what? Better than Trump. Oh my God. You want to talk about damning with faint praise? You want to talk about a low bar? They have lowered the bar so low that it's at Trump. Well, the Young Turks, the Friday show, it's going to be awesome. We're going to help you. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show. No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America. On top of it, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you got no boots. He lit these bars and trash bins all around town out of frustration. 99th most viewed channel today on YouTube. The Shorties Award! Best web host. Voice Award winner, news and information channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another web. The Young Turks! Can I curse? Yeah! Those who are watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door. Haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes. It's opening up by him. Now let's get the best line of the debate. It was definitely the one against Rollins. And never want to see another man's foot ever.
They're barefoot. I'm like, oh! I'm gonna build a wall inside of you. I'm gonna put an anchor in you. I'm gonna space.
I told you we were dumb.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
The question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this shows. Alright, back on my Young Turks. Alright, yes, we are indeed back. Jenk and Anna with you. Mike has a great tweet. The right wing is willing to create a police state, protect the right they purport is intended to prevent the development of a police state.
Such a great tweet.
Yes. Mike, you get a t-shirt. If you want to do the gun control one that we have. But anyway, shoptyt.com. Thank you, Mike. That's a great point. Dude Foxeye says, I don't understand how these shootings keep happening with the surplus of thoughts and prayers we have in this country.
Fortunately, that's what's leading to these mass shootings, Shank.
Apparently. All right. Members of the day are Mike Conwell and Mary Kay Cyril. We've got a great post game for you guys today. And you're going to talk about...
Oh, yeah. Toastmasters. What is it? I experienced it last night. It was amazing.
You got a family member. I think I have a family member in it.
Really?
Oh, my God.
This is exciting.
Okay, very exciting. And then we got to also do the story of I took on a 14-year-old girl in swimming and a 10-year-old boy in a sprint. Exciting drama. We'll tell you what happened. tytnetwork.com/join. Obviously, as you can tell in the post games, we talk a little bit more about our personal lives, a little bit more relaxed and fun going with all the serious stories out there. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member. All right, what's next, Anna?
Last week, ABC News broke a story regarding Scott Pruitt, who is the EPA chief, and the fact that he had been renting a condo in a prime location in D.C. near Capitol Hill for a very small amount of money, but it wasn't disclosed how much he was paying for that condo. Now, a little digging indicated that he actually was only spending $50 a day for this two-bedroom condo, and the person who had rented that condo to him was working for a lobbying company known as Williams & Jensen. Okay, in fact, she is a big part of that lobbying firm, and they lobby specifically for oil companies and companies that extract natural gas. And so, obviously, there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there, and now we have a little bit more detail into what's going on. First, the ethical concerns. Apparently, the EPA investigated this and found that there are no ethical concerns. Let me give you the details.
Oh, what a coincidence.
A memo signed by Kevin Minoli contends that Scott Pruitt's $50 a night rental payments constitute a fair market rate. No, they don't, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. The memo was dated March 30th, the day after ABC News first reported Pruitt lived last year in a condo co-owned by the wife of Stephen Hart, a registered lobbyist whose firm pushed the EPA to relax pollution regulations. Okay. Now, by the way, Scott Pruitt not only met with these lobbyists, he immediately took action, and this is all happening while he's staying at this condo for $50 a night. By the way, they didn't charge him for the nights that he wasn't in the condo. So they made a special exception for him and didn't even charge him for the nights that he didn't stay there. But they did charge him $50 a night when he did stay there. Now, Pruitt has moved to scrap, gut, or replace numerous environmental regulations opposed by the industry while boosting the continued burning of fossil fuels. And by the way, this lobbying firm specifically worked for an energy company, the only energy company in the United States that produces liquefied natural gas, okay? Now, what did Pruitt do in regard to liquefied natural gas? In October, the EPA announced that it would rewrite the Clean Power Plan, the Obama-era regulation that sought to limit planet-warming carbon emissions from coal-fired power plants, like those operated by OGE, another company represented by this lobbying firm, which paid Hart's firm $400,000 in lobbying fees in 2017. Also, Pruitt traveled all the way to Morocco and talked to some of the leaders there to convince them to import liquefied natural gas from the United States.
Wow, specifically liquefied natural gas. Another amazing coincidence.
But what I love about this story is that the negative news coverage about Pruitt is piling on. And it appears that Kelly and Trump have been in talks with him. Trump has said that he has Pruitt's back, which means Pruitt is probably going to get fired soon. That's my speculation, but I believe that we have some history to prove why I would have that kind of speculation. Now, let me give you a few more details. Is that townhouse or that condo, was it being rented to him for market value? No, it was not. According to ABC, the Associated Press, a townhome on the same block as the one leased by Pruitt was advertised for rent on Monday for $3,750 a month. Another two-bedroom unit on the next block was advertised as available for $4,740 a month. Based on how Pruitt was able to pay for the condo that he was staying in, he was paying an average of $1,000 a month. So no, he was not paying market value. There's a clear conflict of interest here, and it doesn't appear that the media is letting this go, which I think is a good thing.
So one of my favorite parts of the story is when they say, no, it's okay, you don't have to pay for the nights you're not there. You guys ever rent a place? Did they ever tell you, oh no, but if you're away, that's okay, you don't have to pay the rent on those days?
It's insane, yeah.
And so on the day that he went to go give a speech in favor of liquefied natural gas in Morocco, why? You're the head of our EPA. What are you even doing in Morocco? I mean, if you were there for an environmental conference and figuring out how to protect the environment better, okay. But you're there to basically be a spokesperson for the company that is letting you have this condo at a ridiculously low rate. And on that night, they make sure that you don't pay the $50 because you're away in Morocco.
That's right. It's insane. So, again, there are issues not only with the conflict of interest here, but also with the fact that Pruitt he took advantage of a loophole in the federal government to secure raises for two of his employees within the EPA, and he increased their salaries to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. So there are people in the White House who are not too happy about that. Also, Politico reported that Pruitt has been scheming to take Jeff Sessions' place as Attorney General. And the reason why I tell you that is because it's relevant to how I think the media obtained information about Pruitt's condo situation. Because that's not public information. This is a person, the lobbyist, right? They own the condo. So they don't have to make that information public. They don't have to publicize how much they're renting it out for. Someone within the White House, this is again my speculation, knew about Pruitt's living situation, didn't like what Pruitt was up to by being maybe overly ambitious, and maybe leaked it to the press. Little leaky leak.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're running a reality show over there, so it might be time for Pruitt to get voted off the island. And that's what they do on shows like Survivor, Apprentice, etc. A lot of back dealing, and Trump loves it. He was a host of a reality show just like this, so that's why this is always encouraged. And as Pruitt got a little too ambitious, all of a sudden, little shiv. Now, before they knew about the $1,000 condo that should have been, $3,700 to $4,700. They didn't care. They didn't mind. Pruitt's corruption and destruction of the EPA, that's what they hired him for. They don't have any problem with that. It's corruption 101 in the Trump White House. Look at what the firm who's corrupting him wanted him to do. They wanted him to relax pollution regulations. Why would they want him to do that? Probably because they want to pollute. That's why you don't want pollution regulations, because you like to pollute.
Right.
So, and they put it into the water and the air, and that affects us. But they privatize the profits. They socialize the costs. We all bear the costs, but not Pruitt. He gets a great apartment at a cheap rate, but if you're going after another Trump guy, what's the biggest problem in America? You can rip off poor people, middle class people all day long. But you touch anybody else in power, then you're in trouble.
That's right.
And so it looks like Pruitt made that mistake, got a little ahead of himself. Let's see how this winds up.
And I want to leave you with a quote from Trump, who was asked by reporters about this Pruitt situation. And here is his supportive quote toward Pruitt. I hope he's going to be great.
Oh, he's done. Okay, next week on Apprentice,
see you later.
Pruitt gets a rose or doesn't get one, or however it works.
Oh, I can't stand Pruitt, so this is great. It's not only great for me and my feelings, it's great for the environment. He is incredibly damaging. Obviously, he'll probably be replaced with someone just as terrible when it comes to environmental issues, but he's getting what's coming to him.
Let's hope.
Yes. All right, moving on. The DEA has arrested dozens of individuals who they believe are involved in the overprescription of painkillers and opioids. Now, there have been 28 people arrested. None of them are people working in the pharmaceutical companies. All of them are either pharmacists or distributors. So let me give you the details on that. The Drug Enforcement Administration arrested 28 prescribers and pharmacists and revoked the licenses of 147 people who handle controlled substances. Now, when it comes to the revoking of those licenses, it's basically when the DEA has some evidence indicating that they're doing something unlawful, but they could get their licenses back if they prove that they didn't act in any unlawful way. Now, it did not appear that the effort targeted any of the drug distributors or manufacturers that have been blamed for allowing hundreds of millions of opioid painkillers to pour out of the legitimate supply chain into the black market over the past 15 years. So let's talk a little bit about the distributors, because that's actually an important part of this story. Last year, the Washington Post did a fantastic job reporting about how members of Congress aggressively pushed for and successfully passed legislation that stripped the DEA of its ability to go after these distributors. Previously, the DEA had the ability to, enforce the law and see whether or not these distributors were selling or distributing a huge amount of opioids or narcotics to these pharmacies. But under this new law, which again passed in 2016, they were stripped of the ability to do that. And so it was referred to, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. But Jeff Sessions, to his credit, is working pretty aggressively to overturn that law, because he wants to give the DEA its power back to go after these distributors. Now let's talk about the pharmaceutical companies. Of course the pharmaceutical companies haven't been targeted. I mean, there's no excuse when it comes to that. No one in the Trump administration is going after Big Pharma, and Big Pharma is the root of the problem. So I'll give them a little bit of a pass when it comes to the distributors, but no pass at all when it comes to the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. So, I don't mind going after doctors that are overprescribing the medicine and the pharmacists, etc. And that's a lot more logical than what Trump and Tucker Carlson, etc., have been saying on Fox News and about how it's Mexico. What? Tucker Carlson just said we had 68,000 opioid deaths just last night on the program. He said because of the Mexicans.
No. Nothing
what
to do with
Mexico. What are you talking
Mexico.
about? But there's no Mexicans running pharmaceutical companies. So the opioids are not brought in from outside the country. They're made here. And to the point Anna was making about distributors, this was from a story we did a little while back, so I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I believe they brought in about 20 million pills into a West Virginia town of about 3,000 people. So did they know, the distributors, hey, I wonder if these 3,000 people in this town can really handle 20 million pills in a matter of a couple of years. And of course they knew what they were doing. Of course they're culpable in that sense, and they knew that it was causing addiction, and they profited off of it. But when it comes to the head honchos, the ones that are actually making the drugs, well, they're untouchable. Why? Number one donors to politicians in the country. More than oil companies, more than the bankers, more than anyone else, the drug companies. And we have an open auction in our country, as you know. You can just buy any politician. It's private financing. And so they just buy them, and so they go get out of jail free card. We know you're the ones who are doing it, but we'll blame Mexico. And from time to time, we'll go after the doctors or the pharmacists, and maybe we'll get to the distributors later. But you guys are untouchable.
Right, and I just wanted to make sure you guys had the info about the law that was passed in 2016 that protected these distributors. First of all, it was co-authored by Representative Tom Marino, who's a Republican, Senator Orrin Hatch, who's a Republican. They aggressively pushed for it, and it was ironically named the Ensuring Patient Access and Effective Drug Enforcement Act of 2016.
Of course it was.
Right, and by the way, Mitch McConnell voted in favor of it, and later, after that Washington Post 60 Minutes story broke, he was asked about it, and he was shocked. He said that he didn't realize that the legislation had this type of wording. It was a 3-page bill, and he didn't read it.
Well,
he didn't read it.
Of course he didn't read it. And they keep saying how the Democrats didn't read the Affordable Care Act. A bunch of liars. None of them read any of the bills. But much more importantly, I am greatly amused by the idea of Mitch McConnell coming in here. There's gambling in this establishment? I am just shocked. You mean to tell me that my Republican Party has been being bribed legally through private financing of elections for all these years? And the pharmaceutical companies are number one donors? Well, I am shocked to find that out. Well, Mitch, I'm sure you are. But to the rest of us, we think, Mitch, please.
All right, we got to take one more break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Young Turks on a momentous day. What now? What now? We get animated about this. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Just understand this, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question. How dare you? That's the problem. You're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Wait, no. It's the legal meeting. Where is it? I don't see it. No. These are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists. For us, this system isn't working. So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all of our.
So what's happening in the Democratic Party is what used to happen in the general election. We would have a person who represented workers and the people and the voters, and then the Republicans would represent business, corporations, and Wall Street, and we'd have a freaking election. That's happening all inside the Democratic Party this time.
And instead of focusing on issues that actually matter to millennial voters, for instance, we're focusing on non-issues in the country. The fear-mongering about Muslims and terrorism.
Here it comes Bernie in Illinois. Tell your friends, tell your family, this is running out now. Take that over. That voice in the wilderness, he created a ripple effect, which then now is a tidal wave as we stand right now. I love this show. We're going to rock the boat. We're going to be counter-establishment. We're going to tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're going to keep it real. You trust establishment media.
The United States economy has never been better. Monetary policy is spectacular. Everybody thought Jamie Dimon was the king of Wall Street last week. Well, it might be Ken Lewis now. Takes the crown. The best salesperson out there is Merrill Lynch, and now it goes to BNA. It's pretty amazing.
Buying opportunity. I do think this is a buying opportunity. We're going to see a stabilization and just a tremendous snapback. The rally will beat you on traffic.
The Occupy Wall Street movement is not a spontaneous protest against economic inequality.
This is what we mean by the establishment press.
It is a well thought out campaign to bring down the infrastructure of this country. The embarrassment is that I'm given credibility in this world because of the disappointment that the public has in what the news media does.
I'm the former chairman of the Veterans Committee, and I've learned a little bit about the cost of war. What the president is trying to do, and I agree with him, is to do everything that we can without going to war. So what you say to your critics, I'm talking about Democratic critics, who say, you know what, he's really just a socialist pacifist.
I very rarely read in any coverage of Bernie that he's a socialist.
Bernie Sanders is a socialist, for God's sake.
Most analysts are saying that Hillary Clinton's going to win in a landslide.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president. We got Trump at 279, 259. We're not going to be polite anymore. You know what we're going to do? We're going to fight back. Fight for a free and independent media. We're done with politeness. We fight back. We are going to put together the best investigative reporting team in the country. UIT will give you the 4 horse, and we will let them gallop. Help unleash real journalism in the country. We don't need anybody else anymore but you guys. This is going to be amazing. All right, back on TYT. Matt Dietrich writes in, I've been in $50 a night places. Who would not be here? I hear you, brother. Sean Phoenix says, as if anyone in this current Trump White House gives a damn about ethics or common decency for that matter. Ronald Reese writes in on YouTube Super Chat, and thank you, Ronald. Please keep doing what you're doing because not everyone will tell us the truth. I didn't join TYT to be coddled. Can do, no problem.
Oh, I love you.
All right, that's great. Yeah, we'll keep giving it to you. All right, let's do it.
Rent in Miami has become so incredibly expensive that teachers who work in the Miami-Dade district are having a difficult time affording their rent. So the school district has responded by proposing new buildings close to the schools that would essentially offer cheaper rent for these educators and possibly other employees in the schools. Now, a preliminary proposal includes constructing a new mid-rise middle school in the Lux Brickell area for Southside Elementary, with a floor devoted to residential units and several more reserved for parking and the classrooms on top. If that goes well, Miami-Dade wants a full-fledged housing complex next to Phyllis Wheatley Elementary, with as many as 300 apartments going up on the campus just north of downtown. Now, when I first read the headline to this story, I thought, maybe this is terrible. I mean, just pay the teachers more so they can afford the rent. But rent in these areas are expensive for everyone. And so, based on what I've seen so far in the proposal, it seems like a pretty good idea. The teachers are pretty supportive of it. So let me tell you more. Details haven't been announced, but county programs typically use federal guidelines that match workforce rents to a family's income. So, for instance, a family of 4 earning $45,000, the rent would cost about $1,200 a month, and that's according to agency statistics. So they would price the units based on a sliding scale, and of course it would rely on or depend on what the teacher or what that employee is making for their salary.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings about this. So on the one hand, it's like you say, which is wonderful that they're going to get, accommodations and lower rent than they normally would, and that they're actually looking out for the teachers in some way. On the other hand, it feels like barracks. And if they're in the same building, then they're going to nitpick teachers' lives. What if the teacher brings home a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they do what boyfriends and girlfriends do, and it's in the same building as the elementary school, and they're downstairs and the classroom's upstairs? And then we're going to have issues, right? Why don't we just pay our teachers? Just pay our teachers more.
I hear you. I agree with you that the teachers should be paid more. But even so, even if the teachers were getting paid more, and teachers are notoriously underpaid, rent in these areas are so expensive for everyone. It's not just teachers. And so to increase their salaries, I mean, that would be fantastic. I hope that does happen. But look, there's another upside to this that I think that, maybe you're not considering. They're going to be close to work. And for some of us, that might sound like, it's like I'm living at work. It's terrible. But a lot of them love the idea of being able to just like walk around the corner from their apartment building and just walk into work and not have to deal with the commute. And Miami is notoriously bad when it comes to traffic. I would argue worse than LA, but people disagree with me on that.
Yeah, no, look, there's lots of upsides and downsides.
Yeah.
Another upside is that you save gas and or however else that you commute. No question about that. Another upside is Brickell's a really nice area in Miami,
right.
So they'd never be able to afford living there on a teacher's salary. These are big upsides. Other downsides, you're probably in the same apartment complex as the principal. And, I don't know if you've ever known teachers who worked in these schools, but there's a ton of politics. And you're in the same building. You can't escape them as the people that are doing all this political stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned a pretty significant downside. I mean, being in a building full of people you can't stand is not fun.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure that a lot of them are great friends and love each other and et cetera. But there's also, folks that you probably don't get along with, and you're forced to be in the same work.
No one's forced. By the way, let me just be clear about something.
That's true.
No one's forced. The teachers would opt in, so they would apply for the apartments, much like any other apartment that you would want to possibly live in. And so it's not like, you work for this school, you have to live here. No, they get to make that decision. And I think that this is genuinely coming from a good place. I think that the school district really wants to help these teachers who just can't afford the rent. And by the way, let me give you some specific details on how much it costs just to live there. Apartment List last year matched teacher salaries with rents in 50 of the country's largest real estate markets. Miami happened to rank 47th. Only New York, Seattle, and San Francisco had larger gaps. So, they're taking a look at the rent prices, comparing it to salary, and obviously there's just this giant gap when it comes to affordability. Let me give you more details. With a first-year teacher earning about $42,000 and raises coming slowly, Apartment List found even established teachers would expect to spend as much as 2/3 of their incomes on a 2-bedroom apartment in Miami.
It's really, we've lost our mind.
Out of control.
Yeah. So, look, we got to go to the Finland model, and I know it's going to be exceedingly difficult, and rich folks are not going to want to move their kids out of private school. But the Finland model is everybody goes to public school, and teachers are super respected and really well paid. And it's one of the best professions in the country. And unsurprisingly, Finland ranks at the very top of all of the scores throughout the world. And they don't have the Asian model, Korean, Taiwanese, etc., of nonstop overwork, competition. No, they actually emphasize cooperation, and they actually value education. We need to do the same. Look, progressives are going to start to take over cities in a big, big way. For a long time, we've had to deal with machine Democratic politicians. So even though giant, very liberal cities would have Democrats as mayors, it'd still be the same old guys in charge. Soon, there'll be progressives in charge, real progressives, that weren't corrupted by campaign cash. You know what we need to do? We need to take a couple of cities and the private schools. And yes, that'll be, man, they will scream at the top of their lungs, right? But say, you know what? We're ending the private schools. Bill Gates, your kids have to go to the same schools as my kids. Now, you know what's going to happen? The public schools and those teacher salaries will improve so steadily, it'll shock the country.
And you're also going to improve the future of your child, even if you're wealthy and even if you can afford that private school, because there is nothing more devastating than being, an educated person who wants to do good things in the world, and you're surrounded by people who don't have those opportunities, don't have an education, aren't able to, be part of the economy and of the country the same way as your kids are. So it's going to improve everyone's lives. You need to think about it as a collectivist thing as opposed to an individualistic thing.
I'll tell you right now, rich people ain't never going to let their kids go to a bad school. They'll pull those public schools up within a matter of 2 years. You say that's unrealistic? Watch. They're not going to let their kids go to bad schools. Our public schools will dramatically improve if we do that. All right, we're out of time, guys. Don't miss Rebel Headquarters. Justice Democrat lost to someone, and now she's a Justice Democrat. All right. Bye. Alright, welcome to Rebel Headquarters. We had great news for progressives today. If you didn't see the whole Young Turks show, Beto O'Rourke breaking all sorts of records in raising money in Texas against Ted Cruz. Got $6.7 million in the last quarter, which is unreal. Randy Bryce, Iron Stash against Paul Ryan, got $2.1 million. Allison Hartson beat Feinstein and another candidate combined in small dollar donations. Unfortunately, Feinstein has nearly unlimited money. So, AllisonHartson.com/now to be a volunteer, and JustDemocrats.com/Allison to donate. I want to tell you more about some of our other candidates as well. By the way, don't forget Brent Welder, TYTKansas.com. Okay, we got to get him to 50,000. We're almost there. So if he defeats Kevin Yoder, that would be amazing, and he is beating him right now. But money makes a huge, huge difference, guys. All right, so let me introduce a couple of other candidates for you guys today. By the way, the second candidate first took on a Just Democrat. Now she is a Just Democrat. That's an amazing story. Don't miss that one. All right, let me start with Matthew Miller. Matthew Miller is running for state senate in Michigan, 18th district over there, and he's got a unique story. He's a young guy. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right, Matthew, how old are you?
I'm 22.
22 years old. Wow, he's in Lord mercy. Are you still in college?
I am.
Interesting. What college are you in?
Currently I'm at WCC. It's Washington Community College in Ann Arbor, or Ypsilanti, actually, Michigan. I have plans to transfer to University of Michigan.
All right. Well, if you could help them learn how to shoot, that would be very helpful. I know they made it in the championship game, but can you make a three? I think I could have made more threes. Anyway.
I think they're better than I am.
I hear you on that. See, he's an honest guy already. I'm guessing since you're 22 years old, you haven't been corrupted yet. So no corporate PAC money for you, right?
Not a penny.
Of course. It's a state senate race. The incumbent there is Rebecca Warren. She's a Democrat. What party are you with, Matthew?
I'm running with the Democrats.
So this is going to be a primary, I guess.
Yep.
So why primary a Democrat in that particular state senate?
Well, Rebecca Warren is termed out. Our state constitution is limited in her terms. So I'm running against three other individuals who want this seat. There's the current state rep, Jeff Irwin, County Commissioner Michelle Dietrich, and the CEO, Anuja Rajendra.
Okay, and what's wrong with those guys? Why do you need to beat them?
So, first thing, I guess we'll start top down. We'll start with who's been in politics the longest. Mr. Irwin has been in politics in Michigan for about 20 years. He's got a very long, tall-standing resume. Unfortunately, he's a really nice guy. He seems like that uncle you never had. You know what I mean? But really getting to know him was great. He's a fantastic guy. Started digging through his campaign finance reports. He started finding he's accepted corporate money from various groups such as Blue Cross Blue Shield. I think we counted something like $20,000 in the last 6 years or 8 years. Next one down is Ms. Michelle Dietrich. Michelle is a county commissioner. She worked on Bernie Sanders' staff, and last December I was really excited about her campaign, and I sat down with her on December 6th at a Big B in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And after talking with her for a while, I guess to be completely honest, I was bored. None of the answers to the questions she gave me really inspired me. I didn't feel any passion behind her words. I felt bored. The next one is Anuja. And actually, I didn't know Anuja was even running when I decided to go into this. Anuja is just, I think she's a great woman, but she seems a bit foolhardy, I guess, on certain topics.
Matthew, you're taking me for a roller coaster ride. You start out with really nice compliments about your opponents, and I'm like, he hasn't been in politics long. And then you lay down the hammer with foolhardy. Okay, why? Why is she foolhardy, in your opinion?
Progressive Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party, and each of us had to talk about one piece of policy we want to bring to the table. The very first thing we do when we got to the Senate. I don't remember what Michelle said. She said something along the lines of, if she had a magic wand, she'd fix everything, but that's not how it works. I can only remember what she talked about. Jeff mentioned something about restructuring our state's income tax from a flat tax rate, it's like 4.25%, to a gradient tax rate, which would be wonderful. And then she talked about banning bump stocks, which is great, but I feel like that's not the most important issue facing our state. My piece was affordable education. There's a huge gap in Michigan's job market right now, where we have a lot of jobs where folks can, they're too overqualified with a college degree and underqualified if they're a high school graduate. But expanded vocational training, expanded community college education would help these folks fill that job gap.
So, Matthew, you said when you were talking to one of the other candidates you were bored. So, what drives you? What are you passionate about? Why? You're in the middle of going to college, and you've got a lot of things on your plate. You're thinking of transferring to another college that can't shoot straight. Can you tell I had money on Michigan? Anyway, so why get all riled up and decide to run for a state senate?
But see, I don't talk about this as a way to earn pity. It's just a matter of fact. It's 8/11 right now, and it's a matter of fact, I grew up in the foster system. I've been around the state my whole life, and I just, I've seen how much of an impact bad policy can make on a person's life. I spent 12 years in it. So I've already had kind of a chip on my shoulder when it comes to this. The 2016 elections was huge for everyone in this country. I mean, it really was. There's no way around that. And so this is the first time I'm eligible by our state's constitution to be involved, as a candidate instead of as, someone to go on doors or make phone calls or whatever. It's my first time to actually put my name out there and say, this is what I want. And I realized that, when I launched my campaign, that it isn't about what I want. It's about the fact that in Michigan, a black man will get locked up 5 to 6 times more than his white counterpart. In Michigan, we have schools in Detroit and Flint with rotting floorboards in their gyms, while schools in Ann Arbor are expanding. And that's great. I'm glad that, the folks in Ann Arbor are getting high quality education, but it shouldn't stop just there. It should be for the entire state. Just because the people around the Ann Arbor area or the Grand Rapids area make more money doesn't mean that the students in the Cadillac and Traverse City area deserve a lesser education. And so I've been looking around and I've been seeing just how much injustice there is in the state and in the world. And I don't want to sit by and keep watching anymore. Somebody has to pick up the flag and keep carrying it. I chose to do so.
All right, Matthew, one more thing. You said that you spent 12 years in the foster care system, and that's what motivated you to want to change things. So what was wrong with the foster care system, and how would you change it?
So I went to the foster care system at 5 years old. I went through 6 major placements, a lot of small placements in between 4 different school systems. And the biggest thing that I remember, the biggest issue that I had was, or 2 biggest issues, was overworked caseworkers that had caseloads so large they couldn't focus on the kids that they had. The second one was when I was 17 years old, I was released from the system. I was released about 2 months before my 18th birthday. I basically got a boot in the ass, was out the door. I really had no idea where I was going after that. I went to Olivet College, just off of Lansing. I went to a field that I didn't like. And I mean, a lot of kids do that. But when it came time for me to turn and ask advice, there was no one for me to turn to. When I got out of the system, out of all that, I found my biological family out in North Dakota. I moved out there and realized, every step I was making was not the step in the direction that I needed to be going. I didn't know what the direction was, but I knew that I didn't have the advice and the parenting, to be honest, to know where I was supposed to go. So one thing that I want to see happen in the state is an expansion of affordable housing to include aged-out foster children, an expansion of financing to be able to hire on more social workers, so that way they're not stretched so thin across so many different foster care cases.
Yep, makes sense. Well, you're a unique story, no question about that. So I want to give everybody the links, as we always do, if you want to help out Matthew. MatthewMillerSenate.com is the website, and if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook later, you know the links are down below. So click on those and check it out. All right, Matthew, good luck in the race, and I appreciate your passion and your wanting to get into the fight as soon as you can. That's the kind of spirit I love. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, the story that you're going to love. She was in a race. She was supposed to have no chance of winning. She was up against a Just Democrat and a guy with a ton of money, two different guys. Beat them both. Boom, turn around, she's now a Just Democrat. You're going to love the story. Come right back. I'll tell you all about it. All right, back on Rebel headquarters. Now, let's go talk to Mary Wilson. She's got a wonderful story that I want you guys to hear about. Mary, welcome to the Young Turks Network and Rebel headquarters in particular. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, sister. So here's a fun story. You're running in Texas 21st District. Texas has a system where there's runoffs if no one gets 50%. Mary, you got no chance. There's a guy in the race, Joseph Copser, who's raised nearly $800,000. How much did you raise, Mary?
Well, I had $40,000. 30,000 of that was my own money.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I can do the math. You were outraised 20-1, and
yes.
And then there was Derek Crow, who was a really good guy, who was a deeply progressive. Yes. He was a Justice Democrat, and so it was a fascinating race. And all of a sudden, you whooped them both.
Well, let me start. Yeah, let me just start off by saying, over the course of the year of campaigning, Derek and I got to be friends. It wasn't just that we were running. There became a true admiration, mutual admiration, and I think genuine affection for one another. And I absolutely adore Derek and appreciate everything he's done and the messages that he was getting out on the campaign as well, and how he immediately turned around the night of the election and the next morning to tell people to get behind me, that the progressive values had won and that I was the candidate to support.
You know, the Democratic establishment often talks about unity, but it's fake unity. They just want you to do whatever they tell you to do. This is really unity. So when you're two decent people involved in a democracy, and you guys run and you wind up winning, Mary, bless your heart for that. And then Derek turns around and immediately asks all of his volunteers and staffers to come to your side. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And one of the first things that I did actually was hire his field director to be my new campaign manager, because I recognized that Derek had the best field game out of the entire campaign. So I hope I showed a little insight and even respect to say, you know what, you did this well, and I'm going to bring that part to this next phase of the campaign and bring some of those people together as part of my team and my staff.
So, Mary, are you now just Democrat?
Yes, I am.
That's awesome.
Yes, I am.
That's great. And so, look, I think that speaks well both of the organization for realizing she's a wonderful candidate. So let's unify in all the great ways, the right ways. And I think it speaks really well of you that they had a candidate running against you, and now you've joined up nonetheless and getting your support. So it's a wonderful story. But I think the most interesting part of the story is how you did it, and that part I don't know. Okay. And so again, let me set the context for everybody. So you had more people in the race than just you three, but you three were the top vote getters. But the top two advanced the runoff. Now you didn't get 50%, so you're in the runoff. You're in the runoff with the guy with all the money, right? And so we're going to find out, who's going to win that primary when the runoff happens. So, but now you got Derek's crew behind you. You got the Just Democrats behind you, and so that's how the rest of this race is going to unfold, and nothing is for certain yet. And I want to save the conversation about the guy with the money to the end. But now, tell me, with that little resources, without almost any of the media covering you, without any infrastructure, how did you come in number one in the initial vote?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I'll admit, coming in first was a little bit unexpected, to be fair and to be honest. But throughout the district, I had people telling me, "Mary, you've got a lot of support out here. You're going to make this runoff." Now, I didn't have any way to quantify that exactly, because what does that mean when people just tell you in passing that you're doing well? You hope that that's true, but you can't, put numbers to it. So the reason I think that I did as well as I did are a couple of things. I think people are looking for different types of candidates. And for instance, the races in Virginia, we're just, your real estate agent or, I don't know, other teachers around the country have come out and said, I want to run for office. And my background is in education and now as a minister. And I looked around and thought, I've done a lot of things that I'm very proud of in my life. And I've been an activist, and I've marched, and I've protested, I've lobbied and testified, all those kinds of things. And I kept thinking, there's got to be more. What else can I do? And so I decided to run for office. And I think we are in an era now where we want people who are working class type people, people who are your basic caring type of people to be in politics. And I think when we want people in elected offices that show that they care about the population and not just about the money. Making money is, man, it's like the god of our country in so many ways, and in politics for sure. And I've never realized how much so until I became a candidate.
Yeah. So I definitely get that part. 16 years as a pastor, 20 years as a mathematics math teacher and professor. And people are excited by real human beings running for office to represent us.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should have been all along until the money corrupted everything. But let's talk about the mechanics just a little bit more.
Sure.
So how did you get volunteers? How many volunteers did you get? What did you have them do? What did you do with the 40,000 that you had?
Right. So, that's a really interesting question. Volunteers in the dozens, and I had them target particular precincts in Austin, San Antonio for flyers, door hangers, and door knocking, that sort of thing that's kind of standard fare. I spent an interesting amount of money in San Antonio on signage and flooded the district in San Antonio with name recognition, because a couple of the candidates in our race did some polls at the end of the year, at the end of December or 1st of January, and those polls indicated at the very least that we needed name recognition. And San Antonio, like Austin, is a big city, and there's a lot of precincts and a lot of different neighborhoods. Like, how do you get name recognition when there's so much space to cover? And so I spent basically $10,000 to put up nearly 500 signs in San Antonio in order to get name recognition, and then I followed that up by some of the door knocking and meeting people in local establishments and introducing myself. And then when I would hear, I saw your sign, oh yes, you're Mary, then I knew that was working to an extent. I did not win Barra County, where San Antonio is. I did come in second there, but I think it demonstrated that particular tactic in that particular area was very helpful. In Austin, where all four candidates live, I already had some name recognition from my activism and lobbying work that I had done. So I just tried to continue to capitalize on that in the corners where people knew me, and make sure that they knew I was running for office and what my positions were that I think they were already familiar with from having known me. And then in the Hill Country, I just made sure I went to every possible event. I've been to San Marcos, San Marcos is just down the highway, but I went to the San Marcos Pride Parade, and I happened to be the only candidate in the race that went to the San Marcos Pride Parade. Of course, I went to the Austin Pride Parade. I've even been to the Kerrville Rotary Club and to any place where I thought I could talk to people. Now, having said that, I think the other candidates did that as much as they possibly could as well. But that is where I focus my efforts, knowing that with a limited amount of money and limited resources because of that, I had to show up at every possible place. And I also recognize that there is nothing better for potential voters than to actually talk to the candidate, in this case herself. And so I just tried to make myself as available and accessible as I possibly could.
And so, if you'll excuse me, just two more questions about the mechanics, and then I want to get to your positions too in the limited time that we have. But so when you say signs, do you mean house signs, like the lawn signs?
Some. I mean, like 4x8 and 4x4 signs spread out through highways and roads and neighborhoods throughout the district, where if somebody left their home to go to the grocery store, they saw one of my signs so that they knew my name.
Okay, and then did you do any ads? So I imagine with that budget you couldn't do TV, but did you do digital ads?
Very, very limited, but I did do some Facebook boost, but not any beyond that. Fortunately, we do have more money already than what I did, and we've already been doing some digital ads. In fact, my spouse came up to me the other day and showed me where she'd been playing a game on her phone. I don't know, solitaire something, and one of my digital ads came up. So that was very exciting to see that. Okay, we've now been able to add that to our arsenal of getting my name out there and advertising our campaign.
Yeah, well, I want to help in that regard. So I love the link that you guys have now, justicedemocrats.com/Mighty Mary to donate to Mary. Yeah, and so LikeMaryWilson.com is the website, and LikeMaryWilson.com/volunteer, of course. Volunteers make a huge difference, and then JustDemocrats.com/Mighty Mary.
Volunteers are what make it happen, and I'm very glad that I am able to pay some staff members now in ways that I couldn't prior to the primary. But none of this works without volunteers. They are the lifeblood of any campaign.
Yep. And so those links are, of course, down below in the description box on YouTube and in the comment section on Facebook. Easy to click. Just go check it out and participate in any way you can. So now, real quick, back to Mr. Moneybags. So what is his governing philosophy? What's his thesis for why he could win in what now is a Republican district? Lamar Smith is retiring, but it's only R+10, which now in Pennsylvania we just had one flip when it was R+19, right? So,
yeah.
And what is your philosophy compared to his?
Well, I think honestly it has a lot to do with money. It seems like his main argument for winning in November is that he has more money and therefore will be able to win the election. The problem with that in Texas in particular is Republicans always outraise Democrats. Beto may be showing some signs of changing that with his very grassroots campaigning and fundraising, but the history has been that Democrats are outraised by Republicans 7-1 or 9-1. And my argument then is, well, we need a candidate that can prove and has proven that she can win while being outspent, and that has a message that gets voters out to the polls. Because we've been looking at some of the precinct turnout in areas where I did well, and there is, I think, an argument to be made that my messaging brought some new voters to the polls. And that we're in a different time now where establishment money is not going to be what wins an election. That we need a message, and a progressive message of one that shows that we care about people's health care, the Medicare for All platform, where we care about how people are able to send their children to school, and not just our public schools K through 12, but what are we doing with college and college debt, and how in the world can graduates become part of our economic system, for lack of a better phrase, if they are saddled with this enormous debt now that's coming out of colleges. So I think we're ready for a different message, a different type of candidate. I think we're ready for somebody, like myself, who has sent 2 kids to college. I have a couple of grandsons. I have a future that I envision for them of a viable, healthy planet, and I just think people are ready for that kind of message, and I think that is really what is turning out voters. And I think the establishment has missed it in this election. They've just missed the messaging.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's not in their heart, it's not in their DNA. Whereas you've been doing it for decades, and I saw you went to Standing Rock. You've been with Black Lives Matter activists, and you lived it. You don't. That's the problem with a lot of politicians; they gotta fake it, right? You don't have to fake it.
Right.
You lived it.
Right. I don't have to explain. I've done the work, my internal work, to understand where my privilege exists and when I have it, and where other people don't. And I'm not sure that the establishment Democrats, for all the hope that we have that they're for the working class and for the people in our culture that often find themselves on the outside, I'm not sure that they've really done the work to understand what that means and to actually live it. And being a part of the LGBTQ community, that's something that I personally had to do. And then by doing that in my own life, it helped me understand how to do that in response to other stories and other people's stories. I was at an event recently where I was sitting next to a college student, a young African American student, and I said, you know what? At my age, my story and what my truth is going to be different than what your story and your truth is. And that's why it's so incredibly important to be able to listen to each other. And for me, when I'm in a position of privilege, to set aside that privilege to recognize what someone else's life story is like and to hear it with intention.
Yes. Mighty Mary Wilson. It would be.
I love the sound of that, I got to tell you.
Well, you've earned it, sister. You've earned
Thank
it.
you.
So I can't wait for the primary night when we find out if you pull that off. Then I can't wait for the general election night, and if I get to call you Mighty Congressman Mary Wilson.
I would love that, because it would show that we really have taken steps to change the way money functions in our country and the way money functions in politics. And money cannot be what drives our political process. It has to be the message. It has to be the experience that people bring to it. And it has to be the ability to care about one another in real and significant ways.
Yep. So if you're in the 21st District of Texas, let Mary represent you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Everybody go to the links. Make sure you participate. Volunteer if you can. If you can't, you got to donate. Go check it out. Thank you, Mary Wilson. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. That was encouraging. We've got some good news for you guys. Hopefully on election night we'll have some great news. All right. We got a wonderful postgame coming up for you members that make all of this possible, including Toastmasters. What is it? And what did Anna learn about it? And did I beat children in races, or did I get embarrassed by them? TYTnetwork.com/join. Nothing but fun. We'll see you over there.
Love you too.